Where do we rank? Are we in?
Bob, you Bengals making it into the playoff for the first time. They are number one. At number two, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Number three, going to be the Clemson Tigers. At number four, Oklahoma.
Time to wonder is over. Time to win is now.
He's in a suit right now, but just trust me, Marcus Spears, college football analyst, probably has the goosebumps going on underneath him, under the shirt after seeing that sizzle. We already know the two semifinals, they're set. But Marcus, we're going to spread the love a little bit this morning on SportsCenter. Give us three other bowl games you're excited for and why.
Yeah, man. First, I'm going to start with the Citrus Bowl. You think about this matchup, obviously Harbaugh versus Nick Saban. And both of these teams didn't expect to be at this point. They were college football playoff contenders previous to this season starting. Mac Jones coming in, playing another big game, an opportunity to continue to showcase what Bama will look like after Tua. And then Michigan. The disappointment of losing to Ohio State so many times, but a win against Alabama could actually add to the perception. The next one I have is the absolute dandy for me, and that is the Rose Bowl. Oregon, Wisconsin, Mario Cristobal, Paul Chryst, Jack Cohn versus Justin Herbert, who's trying to continue to improve draft stock. Oregon came up with huge wins at the end of the season, spoiled Utah's chances, and Wisconsin had a 21-7 lead on Ohio State at one point. And last but not least, the Sugar Bowl. How will the Georgia Bulldogs respond after losing in the SEC championship once again and not playing inspired in the same game against Texas a year ago? You look at Baylor, Matt Rule bringing this program from 1 win to 11-2 this year in the All-State Sugar Bowl. Look, Baylor hasn't been in this game since 1957. This is a huge program boost and a statement for the Baylor Bears, especially with what the Big 12 is trying to change as far as perception of that league and conference. So it'll go a long way in trying to beat the Georgia Bulldogs in the Sugar Bowl.
All those games part of the New Year's Six, but Marcus, we know that you're locked in December 28th. What's going down in Georgia? LSU versus Oklahoma, the first of two CFP semifinals. Marcus Spears joining us this morning on SportsCenter. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Capital One Bowl Mania is brought to you by Capital One. Log on to ESPN.com/BowlMania to sign up and play for a chance to win $1 million.
The logjam in the AFC might clear up a bit next week with all AFC teams currently seeded 4 through 7 play one another. Bills at the Steelers next Sunday night. And maybe the biggest game on paper is Houston at Tennessee. As both teams currently tied atop the AFC South, they also play in Houston on the final day of the season. All right, it's time for half-hour headlines. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't afford a Benz, but I do have cable. And inside the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, everybody got taken on the ride of their life.
So no one likes a story topper, right? Unless, of course, the one-upsmanship is happening at the end of one of the highest-scoring games in NFL history, in which case, steal all the thunder. I mean, trading haymakers down the stretch, the Niners erased Drew Brees' late-game heroics with a Robbie Gould kick as time expired to beat the Saints in New Orleans in the highest-scoring game between 10-win teams in NFL history. Jimmy just called me a G with 4 passing TDs to Drew Brees' 5. Niners sit in pole position for top seed after the upset in L.A.
You speak of that 28-12 final from the Coliseum where the Rams looked less like the third-best team in their own division and more like the team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl just last season. Now the road to defend their NFC crown is like driving through Kansas. It's long, and it doesn't look good. With 3 weeks remaining in the regular season, the race for the NFC West may come down to Week 17 when the Niners travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. According to our Football Power Index, San Francisco, they're the favorites to win the division with a 72% chance, while the Seahawks only have a 28% chance.
Kansas Twitter is coming for you. You know that, right? I love Kansas City was coming last night in a rematch of last year's AFC Championship. Chiefs outlast the Patriots in Foxborough, who staged a spirited comeback before Bashaud Breeland knocked away a 4th down pass right there intended for Julian Edelman to end the game. Chiefs clinch the division, and the Patriots lose ground on the Ravens, the top seed in the AFC. Patriots were unbeatable at home. In fact, the loss on Sunday snapped their 21 consecutive home win streak that dated back to the 2017 season. Including playoffs, it was tied for the 3rd longest streak in NFL history. Only the Dolphins and Packers had longer streaks.
Okay, from New England's defense of home to Minnesota's defense at home, 2 picks. 5 total sacks, allowed just over 200 yards of total offense to the Lions. Vikings win. They stay undefeated at home, and as of right now remain ahead of the Rams for the second NFC wildcard spot.
Let's run you through some big-time performances, the notable performances from Sunday, if you will. Chargers 45-10 win over the Jags. Austin Eckler became the second player in Bolts history with 100 rushing yards and 100 receiving yards in the same game, joining Lionel James in 1985. Full Jameis Winston roller coaster ride on display in a 38-35 win versus the Colts. Winston threw for a career-high 456 yards, and he had 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, but he also had 3 interceptions. And Aaron Jones had a season-high 134 rushing yards in the Packers' 2015 win over Washington. Jones has 15 total touchdowns this season, which is tied with Jordy Nelson for the 3rd most by a Packers player since the NFL merger.
Imagine being peer pressured to score 50 points by your teammates. That's life for Anthony Davis, who had 27 by half, then had everyone tell him to go get 50. Now imagine being good enough as a friend and a basketball player to make it happen. Davis filled the sheet up on 69% shooting in a Lakers win. Nice. The Lakers on a roll, now go on a 5-game road trip, which culminates December 19th against the other best team in the association. On the Eastern Conference side of things, the Milwaukee Bucks, the only other team in the league that has 20 or more wins.
Patriots are the opposite of on a roll, right? They lost back-to-back games, week 14 and 15 last year, so they do it essentially almost in the exact same manner this year, only it seems like it's a little more ripe for panic this year. Jeff Darlington has more.
Mahomes back to pass. Pressure coming hard. Gets rid of it down for Coleman. Makes the catch. Into the end zone for the touchdown.
The Patriots just lost to the Chiefs. They continued to struggle to find their identity on offense. They looked at times too lackluster, too average for another Super Bowl run. And now, well, they're on to Cincinnati.
We're just trying to win games.
If this sounds familiar, it should. It's the very scenario, at least on the surface, that played out in 2014, a season that ended with the Lombardi Trophy. After an ugly Week 4 loss to the Chiefs caused Bill Belichick to infamously and repeatedly say,
"We're on to Cincinnati."
No doubt, the situations share similarities. But if the Patriots are going to repeat the positive part of their 2014 history, not just the rough part, something is going to need to change.
The situations are a little different, and it's a different team every year too. So this particular team, as a whole, hasn't been through different situations. So we have 3 big games to go. Got to get back to winning football.
Brady back, pressure coming, throws end zone for Edelman, knocked away.
For the 8th straight week, Tom Brady has had a passer rating below 100, the longest such streak of his career.
Disappointing, but not going to feel sorry for ourselves. Try to go back to work and do a better job.
The Patriots could have used plenty of excuses to explain this latest loss, including many critical and controversial calls by the referees. But with 3 important games on the horizon, there's no time to worry about the past.
We lost a close game to a good football team. If we could play a little bit better, I think we could win.
In other words, they're on to Cincinnati.
It all comes full circle. Let's bring in Dan Orlovsky. Patriots, Dan, and I know you paid particular attention to this, resorted to gadget plays to spark their offense. I counted 3. What do you think that says about the state of their offense?
It's become abundantly clear to their play caller, Josh McDaniels, that's the only chance they have to get like explosive or chunk plays down the field. That they've got to figure out some gadgets, some tricks, some reverse passes, some double passes, or running back passes. That's the only option for this offense right now to find ways to move the football. I mean, they're an offense that averages in the last 7 weeks 4.7 yards per play. That's 30th in the NFL. And so Josh McDaniels as a play caller is going, okay, where can I find explosive plays down the field? How can I get the ball thrown down the field more, efficiently, if you want to say that? And for the 3 straight weeks now, we've seen this team offensively resort to trying to figure out trick plays rather than an efficient offense.
Again, it does bear repeating that sad and dejected team that you just witnessed speaking is still 10-3. Meanwhile, Dan, Tom Brady's former backup Jimmy Garoppolo led the Niners to a dramatic win over the Saints. It was a good one. What did Jimmy G show you in his 4-touchdown performance?
Big boy ball. Jimmy G, I mean, the question has been, okay, is Jimmy G going to be enough for this football team? And it's been a warranted question. Signed, sealed, and delivered yesterday on the road in New Orleans. The most impressive thing was the a kind of above coaching plays. Some of the plays out of pocket where, listen, Kyle Shanahan draws up good plays and the Saints do a good job covering it, but Jimmy G goes above and beyond and just made play after play after play. And the question kept getting asked, okay, is this going to be his moment? Is this going to be his moment? And he just kept answering it. And I thought it was a really big win on the road, battling obviously the Hall of Famer Drew Brees and having to score that many points. The question, because everybody quarterback-wise in the NFC has had their moments. Jimmy G hasn't. And this is the second time in 3 weeks where he has. But this is the biggest win and performance of his career.
He's sneakily been putting something together. Third game for Jimmy G with at least 4 passing touchdowns. He's the first Niners quarterback to do that since the legend himself. And of course, I'm referring to Jeff Garcia.
I knew that was coming.
Dan Orlovsky, you know me well, Dan. Dan Orlovsky joining us here on SportsCenter. Thanks, Dan.
Still ahead on SportsCenter. Once traded for each other on draft night. Luka and Trae Young continuing to trade now. Ridiculous performances.